The scariest creature in Star Wars isn't the biggest. It's the one that turns you into the weapon. The Star Wars galaxy is home to some of the most nightmarish predators ever designed, and today I'm breaking down the absolute worst of them. Starting with something so small you'd never see it coming. Brain worms measure a few centimeters long. You could hold one between your fingers like a piece of lint, and that tiny thing can neutralize an elite soldier more efficiently than a battalion of stormtroopers ever could. The worm enters through the nose or mouth and wraps itself around the brain, taking full control of the nervous system. Your hands, your legs, your voice, all of it belongs to someone else now. But here's where it gets truly horrible. You're still in there. Victims remain fully conscious behind their own eyes, watching their body attack former allies, completely powerless to stop any of it. The Geonosian Queen used these parasites to hijack clone troopers on a supply station near Geonosis. You don't need a Death Star to break people. You just need something small enough to crawl inside their head. A creature measuring centimeters accomplished what conventional warfare couldn't, turning trained soldiers into puppets without firing a single shot. But if a parasite hijacking your brain sounds bad, wait until you hear about the thing lurking in every garbage compactor in the galaxy, Denoga. Here's something nobody thinks about. A huge number of starships, space stations, and settlements in the galaxy have waste systems. And lurking inside those waste systems, perfectly evolved to thrive in conditions that would melt the skin off most living things, is a tentacled nightmare that can grow up to 10 meters long. The Dianoga is an ambush predator that lives in garbage, sewage, chemical runoff, toxic sludge, it doesn't matter. If it's disgusting enough to kill you on contact, a Dianoga calls it home. Most people remember the one that grabbed Luke Skywalker in the Death Star's garbage compactor, dragged him under murky water, wrapped a tentacle around his leg, and pulled him down where its natural camouflage made it completely invisible. Luke literally could not see what was killing him, which is, not ideal, but that wasn't some freak occurrence. Dianoga commonly infest waste systems across the galaxy. Garbage compactors, drainage pipes, flooded sublevels nobody's bothered to inspect. They show up everywhere people stop looking. If you end up in deep water with one, your chances are terrible. Direct combat in a Dianoga's preferred environment is a losing proposition for basically any humanoid. Escape is the only real strategy, and even that assumes you know which direction is up, while something with a mess of tentacles is dragging you into pitch-black sewage. But at least a Dianoga has to catch you in the dark. The next creature on this list will hunt you down in broad daylight, and it can sense your nervous system through walls. Nixu. You literally cannot hide from this thing. Most predators in the Star Wars galaxy rely on sight or smell. The Nexu does both, and then adds a cheat code on top. It has secondary eyes on the back of its skull that see in infrared, meaning it detects your body heat, whether you're behind a wall or sprinting through total darkness. Its primary eyes handle low-light vision. Between the two sets, you are never not visible to this thing, around 1.83 meters long without the tail. The Nexu is a feline apex predator that knows where you are before you know it's hunting you. Your body heat is basically a dinner bell. But here's where it gets interesting. Padme Amidala fought one in the Geonosis arena and survived. No lightsaber, no force abilities, just chains, a pillar, and the good sense to keep moving. She beat an animal that can literally see her through darkness by being smarter than it, and that's the Nexu's strange contradiction. It's absolutely lethal in direct combat. But every survivor account suggests the same thing. You don't beat a Nexu by fighting it. You exhaust its hunting drive. You evade until it burns out. Direct confrontation is just a faster way to die. So it's beatable, technically. As long as you're faster, smarter, and luckier than a creature that already sees exactly where you're standing. But if you think an animal you can outrun sounds manageable, wait until you see what was standing in the next cage over Acklay. Most people look at the Acklay and see a giant bug. 6 legs, claws, angry. Standard alien monster stuff. But here's the thing. This creature is far more dangerous than its bug-like appearance suggests. The Acklay is a 6-limbed amphibious predator, standing 3 to 4 meters tall, native to the plains of Vendaxa. Those limbs end in massive claws that can punch through bone and armor like wet cardboard. It's not some lumbering beast either. It's fast, aggressive, and built to chase down prey across open ground. your instinct is to run. The Ackley's instinct is to make sure that doesn't work. But the real nightmare is how relentless this thing is. It doesn't hesitate, doesn't second guess. It locks onto prey with pure predatory instinct and just keeps coming. This thing evolved as an apex predator on a planet where everything was already trying to kill everything else. I don't know what to tell you. When the Geonosians threw an Ackley into the Petranaki arena against Obi-Wan Kenobi, a literal Jedi Master with the Force and years of combat training, he still barely survived. And he had room to maneuver, a weapon, and 2 other targets splitting its attention. The sheer speed, aggression, and reach of a creature with 6 massive stabbing limbs created a combat problem that most humanoid reflexes simply aren't built to handle. But at least the Ackley has to catch you first. The next creature on this list doesn't even need to chase its prey. Rancor, everyone knows the Rancor as Jabba's pet monster. Big, ugly, eats people whole. End of story. But here's the thing. The Rancor might be one of the most misunderstood creatures in the entire galaxy, and Jabba turned it into a gladiator. Standing around 5 meters tall, a Rancor is built like a living siege engine. Those claws can tear through Durasteel plating, and the jaw strength is enough to crush bones, armor, and pretty much anything unfortunate enough to end up between the teeth. In a straight fight against a human, the math is simple. You lose. Almost nobody survives a Rancor encounter through combat alone. Luke didn't beat Jabba's Rancor by fighting it. He dropped a gate on its skull. That tells you everything you need to know. But here's where it gets complicated. Rancors are semi-sentient. They can be trained, they bond with their handlers, and they demonstrate genuine attachment to the people who raise them. They're not mindless killing machines. They're closer to dangerous, emotionally aware animals that can form real relationships. Remember the Keeper who broke down crying when Luke killed Jabba's Rancor? That scene hits different when you realize the creature probably recognized him as family. Jabba knew exactly what he had. He took something capable of loyalty and affection and turned it into a political weapon. Every execution in that pit wasn't just murder, it was theater, a Hutt power move designed to psychologically dominate everyone watching. Disobey me, and I'll feed you to something that could have been your friend, which is, not ideal. But at least the Rancor's suffering eventually ended. The Sarlacc's victims aren't nearly that lucky. Most creatures in this galaxy want to kill you. The Sarlacc doesn't, and that's exactly why it's worse than all of them. Here's the thing, the Sarlacc doesn't hunt, it doesn't chase, it doesn't even move. It just sits there, buried over 100 meters deep in the ground with its mouth open, generating suction forces strong enough to drag you in before you even realize what's happening. Once you make contact with that gravitational pull, your chances of escape drop to somewhere between 0 and 1%. And that 1%? Those are people who got rescued because somebody else blew the Sarlacc up from the outside. Nobody crawls out on their own. Nobody. But killing you isn't the nightmare. Keeping you alive is. A single humanoid takes an estimated 1,000 years to fully digest inside a Sarlacc. 1,000. And the entire time you're conscious. You can feel everything. The enzymes slowly dissolving your body, the walls of the digestive chamber pressing against you, all of it, for centuries. It doesn't eat you. It imprisons you inside a biological torture chamber and makes sure you're awake for every second of it. There's actually scholarly debate about whether the Sarlacc is even a natural organism. Some researchers genuinely believe it might be an engineered execution apparatus because nothing that evolved naturally should be this perfectly designed for prolonged suffering, which is, not ideal. But if the Sarlacc terrifies you by sitting still, wait until you meet something that actively hunts you down across miles of open desert. Krayt Dragon. Most predators live fast and die young. The Krayt Dragon does neither. These things come in 2 varieties, the smaller Canyon Krayt and the greater Krayt Dragon, and the greater variant is massive enough to swallow a bantha whole without slowing down. Their hide shrugs off blaster fire like it's a light breeze, and if the armor doesn't get you, the acid will. Krayt Dragons produce a corrosive digestive acid so potent it dissolves prey almost instantly. But here's where the Krayt Dragon stops being a big lizard and starts being something else entirely. These creatures burrow beneath the sand dunes of Tatooine and wait. A greater Krayt Dragon can erupt from beneath the desert floor and consume an entire squad in seconds. They don't chase you, they just exist beneath you, and you find out too late, and everything on Tatooine works around them. Settlements like Mos Pelgo lived in constant terror of a single Krayt Dragon. One creature held an entire town hostage, forcing residents to sacrifice livestock just to keep it from destroying everything. One individual specimen dictated how an entire community survived. That's not a predator, that's a landlord with teeth. The kill difficulty is almost funny. It took a Mandalorian, an entire Tusken Raider war party, a village worth of volunteers, explosives, and a jetpack trick just to bring down one. Jedi have tangled with them too, but it's never casual. You don't fight a crate dragon with confidence. You fight it with a plan, numbers, heavy ordnance, and a solid amount of luck. But if a creature that holds entire towns hostage sounds like the ceiling, wait until you hear about what's lurking in the depths of space. Summa Verminoth. Here's a fun question. How do you classify something that might not even exist? The Summa Verminoth is estimated at somewhere between 200 and 300 meters long, potentially larger. But that number comes with a massive asterisk because the galactic scientific community can't even agree on what this thing actually is. Some scholars argue it's a legitimate deep space predator. Others think it's spacer folklore, a campfire story that got out of hand. What little information exists suggests the Summa Verminoth functions as a completely indiscriminate consumer of organic matter. No sophisticated hunting strategy, no complex sensory systems. It detects prey through chemical signals and direct contact, then dissolves whatever touches it with enzymatic efficiency that borders on absurd. But here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. Han Solo and his crew barely escaped one during the Kessel Run, and that was less tactical victory, and more flew fast enough that the gravity well of a massive singularity pulled the creature away from them. They didn't beat it. The universe just happened to intervene. Every other creature on this list, somebody has fought and walked away. The Summa Verminoth, the only survival strategy on record is literally running away while a collapsing maelstrom does the heavy lifting, which is, not ideal. That's what makes it different from everything else we've covered. The scariest thing about the Summa Verminoth isn't its size or its digestive system. It's the hopelessness. It exists at the boundary between documented science and myth, and the one confirmed encounter required a cosmic accident to escape. I don't know what to tell you, but if the idea of a creature you can only survive by outrunning a black hole sounds bad, wait until you hear about something that lives inside asteroids and takes 1,000 years to eat you. Exogorth Space Slug. Here's a question nobody in the Star Wars universe has ever answered satisfactorily. How does a living organism survive in the vacuum of space? Because the Exogorth does. It just does. And it's not some tiny microbe clinging to an asteroid. This thing approaches or exceeds 500 meters in length. That's half a kilometer of living, breathing, starship-eating nightmare floating through an environment where nothing should be alive. The Exogorth, or space slug if you want to be casual, about a creature that swallows entire spacecraft, represents a complete breakdown of everything we understand about biology. It consumes metal, processes organic material, and thrives in conditions that would kill every other known organism instantly. The leading theory is that it operates on a completely alien biochemistry, something so fundamentally different from carbon-based life that our scientific models just shrug and give up. But here's the detail that turns this from fascinating to genuinely terrifying. The Exogorth doesn't hunt with eyes or scent. It detects spacecraft propulsion signatures and gravitational disturbances. Your engines are literally a dinner bell. The moment you fire up your thrusters in the wrong asteroid field, you're announcing yourself to something the size of a skyscraper that considers your ship a light snack. Survivability sits at roughly 15 to 30%, and that's only for experienced pilots who recognize the threat immediately and punch it. Han Solo, arguably the best pilot alive, flew into one's mouth thinking it was a cave, which is, not ideal. The real dread isn't the size, it's the implication. Every asteroid field in the galaxy could be hiding one, and you'd never know until your sensors picked up something impossible, something alive, something hungry, and something already closing the distance. But if a creature that defies the laws of biology concerns you, wait until you hear about the one that defied an entire galactic military. Zillo Beast. Every creature on this list so far has been dangerous for one reason. Teeth, claws, size, or some combination of the three. The Zillo Beast has all of that, and an ability that nothing else on this list can match. Its hide is virtually impervious to damage. Lightsabers, blaster fire, heavy artillery, none of it could penetrate this thing's natural armor plating. It's not just big, it's practically invincible, and the scale is genuinely absurd. We're talking roughly 97 meters in length. That's not a creature, that's a living skyscraper that can swat gunships out of the air like insects. But here's where the story gets really interesting. When the Zillo Beast emerged on Malastare, it didn't just cause problems for one army. It forced engagement with both the Separatist and Republic military forces simultaneously. Two sides of a galactic war, with all their advanced weapons and military hardware, everywhere, and neither of them could put this thing down. It tore through conventional military equipment like it was made of wet cardboard, inflicting catastrophic casualties on organized armies that were already busy trying to kill each other, which is, not ideal for morale. The survivability rate for humanoid combatants against a Zillo beast sits at effectively 0%, and the worst part? Its demonstrated immunity to advanced weapons systems forced a complete reevaluation of military doctrine. Generals had to sit down and basically admit that nothing in their arsenal worked. Every strategy, every weapon designed for large-scale threats, all useless against that armor. Then came the real controversy: capture or destroy. Some wanted it studied, others wanted it erased from existence. The ethical debate around what to do with something that powerful and that resilient added a layer of complexity that most giant monster stories never bother with. But if you think one unkillable kaiju is nightmare fuel, wait until you hear about the Gorog. Gorog, every creature we've talked about so far, has one thing in common. They're individuals. One brain, one body, one set of terrible decisions. The Gorog throws that entire concept in the trash. The Gorog is a colonial mega-organism. Not a single creature, but billions, possibly trillions, of smaller organisms fused together into one massive living structure, with biomass comparable to a small settlement. Imagine an entire town, except the town is alive, it's hungry, and it's furious. Each tiny component organism functions like a cell in a body that never stops consuming and never stops growing. Here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. This thing isn't just a mindless swarm. The Gorog operated as a unified intelligence, coordinating its colonial body with enough coherence to fight trained force users and armed military personnel. Billions of organisms functioning as one mind, and that mind was aggressive enough to take on Jedi. I don't know what to tell you. That's not a creature. That's a distributed supercomputer made of meat. When Starkiller encountered the Gorog beneath Cato Neimoidia, it took everything he had just to survive. This thing was chained up in a massive arena, and it was still one of the most dangerous encounters in the entire campaign. You can't just stab something made of a billion smaller things. The line between creature and ecosystem dissolves completely with the Gorog. It doesn't inhabit an environment. It becomes one. And the worst part? Nobody's entirely sure if more of these colonial nightmares exist out there, quietly accumulating biomass in some forgotten corner of the galaxy, getting bigger by the day. But if a hive mind with the population of a planet concerns you, wait until you hear about something that makes the Gorog look like a science project. Something ancient, something that eats minds, and something the galaxy barely survived. Abeloth, every single creature on this list kills your body. Abeloth eats your mind. This isn't a beast. This isn't even a predator in any meaningful sense of the word. Abeloth is a cosmic catastrophe that decided to wear a face, and it has existed for longer than galactic civilization has had a name. We're talking millions of years before recorded history, before the Republic, before the Jedi, before anyone was around to write down how terrified they should be. Here's what makes Abeloth fundamentally different from everything that came before it. A Rancor crushes you. A Sarlacc dissolves you over 1,000 years. A Krayt Dragon poisons you into oblivion. All horrible ways to go? Sure. But Abeloth consumes sapient thought itself. Not flesh, not bone, not organs. Your consciousness, your identity. Everything that makes you a person gets absorbed into this thing like water into sand, and you can't fight it. Conventional weapons do nothing. Energy-based attacks do nothing. Physical force does nothing. Abeloth demonstrates what can only be described as localized omniscience, probability manipulation, and the ability to alter the fundamental structure of space and time, which is, not ideal. So naturally, the galaxy's response was to throw literally every powerful force user they had at the problem. The most elite, the most trained, the most cosmically attuned individuals in existence, all coordinated in an unprecedented effort to stop Abeloth. And they didn't win. They achieved containment. Temporary containment. The entire galaxy's greatest weapon against the dark couldn't kill this thing. They could only put it in a box and hope the box held. And that's the part that should keep you up at night. Containment means it's still out there, somewhere, waiting. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.